everyone, and a warm welcome to you all. I'm Nadja Hale, Head of Fundraising at the RVC Animal Care Trust. Every year my team and I look forward to meeting you all at our Donor Day event, but unfortunately, as with so many things at the moment, we're unable to hold events on campus. We wish we were catching up with you in person, but we hope this online event will bring the ACT to life in your living room and update you all on all that we've been doing this year in spite of the circumstances. We're going to take you behind the scenes of our hospitals and show you how the generous support you provide the ACT is making a real difference on the ground. We'll be welcoming our colleagues from the Queen Mother Hospital and the Equine Hospital, as well as our Beaumont Sainsbury Animal Hospital in North London. At the end of the event, you'll receive links to further short films and information which you can browse through at your leisure. Fundraising this year has obviously been really tough, a real challenge. Many events have been cancelled or put on hold, and our entire team is still working from home, as you can see. In spite of all this, and thanks to you, our supporters, we've been able to fund really important projects and activities at the Royal Veterinary College. We were delighted to be able to fund a new blood transfusion medicine assistant for our vital blood donor service, and we welcomed Grace to the RVC at the beginning of the year. We've also invested in various pieces of pioneering clinical equipment for the hospitals, which you'll hear about later. We're now busy planning our activities for 2021. Clearly, we're still in uncertain times, and we have to assume that any face-to-face events will not be possible for some time. But we'll carry on with our newsletters and appeals, which have really become the lifeblood of our small charity during this pandemic. Social media has also been a real godsend this year, so please do follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and keep an eye on our website for all our latest news. Our Christmas appeal will be with you in just a couple of weeks' time, and once again we'll be lighting up our memory tree with your special messages of love and support. These mean so much to our hospital staff and clients last year, and I know their impact this year will be even greater. This year we're fundraising for an incredible operating microscope for the RVC's amazing ophthalmology team, and you'll hear more about that shortly. So finally, before we take you behind the scenes and before you hear more from our colleagues at the RVC, I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for your support. You've continued to provide us with support, and every donation always means a great deal to us. But when life is so difficult for many, every gift at the moment is extra special. Enjoy the tour, and we'll be back at the end to answer some of the questions you kindly sent in with your RSVPs. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Vicky Lipscomb. I'm Professor of Small Animal Surgery here at the RVC and Clinical Director of the Queen Mother Hospital for Animals. I've worked at the RVC for over 20 years, and 2020 has certainly been one of the most challenging years. The arrival of COVID and lockdown in March came very, very quickly for us here in the hospital, as it did for most of the country. We were suddenly the students departed overnight, and we were suddenly faced with a lot of people off at different times, either because of rotas or shifts or people self-isolating, and suddenly we had to run the hospital, but with completely different protocols and a completely different set of resources for a while. I'm happy to say that really what's seen us through all of lockdown and dealing with the pandemic has been the amazing teamwork. Everyone's pulled together and come up with ever-evolving new ideas and patterns of how to manage the different challenges. So we were very quiet for a week or two initially, but not for very long. We are traditionally a very emergency-based hospital anyway. We have great expertise and specialty in critical care and emergency services. We're the only level 1 trauma centre in Europe, and so very quickly, even though we were only allowed to see emergency work during lockdown, we became very, very busy. We take the phones overnight to do emergency work for over 50 local practices, and they were all super busy, short-staffed, facing the same problems and wanting to refer the cases into us as well. So we had to quickly adapt and come up with lots of new ways of working. Our clients have been really understanding. The new protocols involve them remaining in the car park We've been doing telephone consultations and examining the pets separately from their owners in the hospital, and everyone's been very good with their feedback. They felt safe with our protocols, and we've worked to try and get them as efficient as possible. Obviously it does take more time to do things differently. We've booked more time slots for a greater length of time to do our consultations to make sure that everything can be achieved. And in fact, there are some silver linings, because some of the technologies and the advancements that we've used have allowed us to create some workflows that we probably wouldn't have had for several years if it hadn't been for COVID. So there's definitely a few things that we'll keep going forwards. We've adapted quite a lot of our teaching, and even just our own internal meetings very quickly had to go to an online platform on our devices. So even if we're all in the hospital working clinically and rounding on a patient discussing a case, we won't necessarily or usually be together. Even with social distancing, we will be holding our clinical rounds remotely on our devices, which is actually another silver lining. We've opened things up for colleagues who are away or travelling or in different places to be able to contribute to those discussions, and so that's improved our teamwork and our teaching. We did, talking about teaching, we did have the challenge of welcoming all the students back recently onto campus. The final year students who rotate through the hospital started coming back into the hospital in September. And so just as we had adapted to our new ways of working and our new protocols, we needed to evolve again to absorb the greater density of students in the hospital that we needed to develop for new ways of teaching them. So we've been quite creative with our shift patterns and shift lengths, and also again employing technology to stream certain procedures on a video screen so that we can reduce the overall density of people in any one area at any one time, but at the same time maximising what we can deliver in terms of clinical teaching. The students are really grateful to be back. They're working hard and they're adapting to the protocols as well. So just like our clients, they're sort of appreciating what needs to be done, but what can be done within the constraints of the current pandemic. And I do want to thank each and every one of you as our ACT donors. We do know that it's the ACT funding and resourcing that allows our hospital to run at the cutting edge, delivering what we want to do day in, day out, excellent patient care, teaching the students, and with a focus on excellent clinical research. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy our virtual open day.
At the Royal Veterinary College. Here at the Beaumont Sainsbury Animal Hospital, we have a team of vets and nurses working purely with exotic species. That can mean anything from a parrot to a sugar glider, a snake or a fish, as well as the more commonly kept but slightly less exotic small mammals such as rabbits and guinea pigs. Our day can definitely be varied. Most of our work is providing a first opinion service for pet owners in the local community, although we also run a specialist referral service for other vets to send their more complex cases. We're lucky to have a range of facilities here at the hospital, tailored to the different needs of our patients, with separate wards and consult rooms for animals such as rabbits, ferrets, birds and reptiles. We've also really benefited from the support of the Animal Care Trust, who have funded both surgical and diagnostic equipment to allow us to treat even the smallest of patients. And obviously all of this is vital to help us train our vet and nurse students. We'd really like to thank the Animal Care Trust and all of you for your donations, which continue to help support us with this important work.
Hello and welcome to RVC Equine. I'm Bettina Dunkel, I'm the head of the Equine Hospital, and I'm really sorry that you can't be here today. It would be lovely to have you in person here to welcome you, but of course due to the current circumstances that's not possible. It's certainly been an exceptional year for us. It started well enough with a very busy January, February, and particularly in March we had incredibly high case numbers. We would have been record-breaking, but for us. But then the lockdown came and everybody left, and suddenly we were standing here without patients and without our students, and had to adapt to the situation rather quickly. I've been here since 2005. And I've never seen the place without students, so it was certainly a big change. But we adapted. The cases came back really quickly. We became extremely busy, and that's where we are now. A very good caseload. Horses are here, and we are seeing cases. Our students are back, and it's fantastic to actually have them join us again. We really did miss them, and I think they missed us too. And while it's not business as usual, it's certainly going on, and we are making the most of it. Why I'm here today is I want to wholeheartedly thank you for all the support you have given us in smaller and larger ways over the years. One of the particularly large ways is right behind me here. That's Muffin. Muffin is our rescue moniker, and we use him to teach our staff members but also students how to rescue horses that have gotten themselves into difficult situations, how to safely get them out of a ditch, how to safely get them out of a trailer if they're down, and so forth. So it's extremely useful. One of the smaller items you have kindly donated is our electroacupuncture unit. It is a handheld machine as big as a fist, but it's extremely useful for treating horses with head shaking conditions and also some other musculoskeletal issues for rehabilitation and so forth. So it is a very small unit, but very frequently used in our hospital. The equine practice is incredibly grateful for the support you gave to acquiring a video endoscope. It makes all the difference to the client if they can actually see the lesion the veterinarian is looking at, rather than just sort of staring at a vet who's staring through a scope. It gives the whole thing a completely different dimension. And last but not least, you have kindly sponsored an operating microscope for our small animal hospital, but it was a joint application, and we will get the currently used microscope for our operating theatre, and that will enable our ophthalmology team to perform quite complex procedures on horse's eye, which we've never been able to do before. So again, a wholehearted thank you from the entire equine team. We are extremely grateful for all your support, and again, thank you very much.
Team at the Royal Veterinary College. We just wanted to say thank you so much to all the donors out there who've helped us with our transfusion medicine service this year. We've gained the wonderful grace of new transfusion medicine service assistant and a brilliant new blood fridge. We hope you enjoy this video telling you more about it.
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Rowena and I'm a lecturer in Companion Animal Behaviour and Welfare Science here at RVC. My role involves conducting research to better understand diseases and their impact on the behaviour and welfare of pets, particularly dogs. I lead a team of researchers focused particularly on canine epilepsy. Epilepsy is the most common chronic brain disorder in dogs, affecting around 76,000 dogs in the UK alone. Epilepsy is characterised by recurrent seizure activity and is extremely stressful for both the affected dogs but also their owners. Our team investigates a range of topics around canine epilepsy, including exploring the potential causes of epilepsy, developing novel treatments, and developing techniques and technologies to detect and predict seizures. ACT have made a huge difference to my group's epilepsy research in the past few years. One focus of our epilepsy research is understanding the impact of epilepsy upon owners of affected dogs and finding ways to better support them in managing their dog's condition. One of these efforts was launching our very own smartphone app, RVC Pet Epilepsy Tracker, that helps owners to record seizures and medications, as well as providing educational content for epilepsy and its treatment. ACT funds have supported the app, including funding a major upgrade in 2019. The app has been downloaded over 35,000 times by owners across 80 countries across the globe. These ACT funds are helping owners of dogs with epilepsy in all corners of the world. More recently, in 2020, the ACT funded a major new study in our group. My fantastic PhD student Sarah Hobbs is conducting a clinical trial to investigate the impact of behavioural therapies on dogs with epilepsy, particularly those that are hard to treat and don't respond to traditional medication. We will recruit over 100 dogs into this study over the next 2 years. Sarah would have been unable to carry out her PhD and run this important study without ACT's generous support, with ACT funding an entire year of this 3-year study. Both Sarah and I look forward to reporting back to you over the next couple of years with how this project is progressing and of course the final results in 2022. We're extremely grateful to all of the ACT donors for their continued support of our group.
This is JJ. JJ is a 14-year-old Bichon Frise that has lost his vision due to developing cataracts. This is a close-up picture of JJ's right eye. You can see a dense white opacity in his pupil, which is the cataract. This opacity of the lens prevents light entering the eye and being focused on the retina. Lens opacities might only be very small and hardly interfere with vision, or, as in JJ's case, can be very severe and lead to blindness. In addition to causing blindness, they can also lead to other blinding and painful ocular conditions, such as intraocular inflammation and glaucoma. Here you can see JJ in the hospital. He finds it hard to navigate around the consulting room and frequently bumps into objects. When taken for a walk, he can't orientate himself in his environment and wanders around aimlessly. JJ's family is concerned about his quality of life as a blind patient, especially as he has fallen down some stairs. They believe his age, having gone blind quickly, and a potential reduction in his sense of smell are making it hard for JJ to adapt to life as a blind dog. His family has therefore decided to go ahead with cataract surgery. After confirming that JJ's retina is functional and a thorough health check to determine the risk of the anesthetic, JJ was taken to theatre. This is a view down the operating microscope. JJ is now fully anesthetized and has received neuromuscular blocking agents. These are drugs that paralyze the patient and prevent the eye from moving during the surgery. We are working with a relatively high magnification and microsurgical instruments. After creating a tiny 2.8 mm wide entry into the eye, we inject some blue stain that improves visualization of the antral lens capsule. The lens capsule is the bag that contains the opaque lens protein that we are aiming to remove and replace with an artificial intraocular lens. In order to access the opaque lens contents, we are creating a circular opening in this lens capsule bag. Due to JJ's age, the lens is very hard and we opted to create an additional 1 mm incision for a second-hand instrument. This will support breaking up the lens into smaller fragments that can then be aspirated more easily. The additional instrument that has been inserted through the larger incision is the phacoemulsification probe. This instrument is designed to convert electrical energy into mechanical energy and in doing so emulsifies the lens. The process of phacoemulsification takes place at the tip of the needle, which vibrates at ultrasonic frequency like a little jackhammer. Once the contents are broken into smaller pieces, the fragments can be aspirated out with suction. During the whole process of phacoemulsification, fluid is constantly irrigated into the eye to prevent excessive generation of heat and damage to the intraocular structures. The fluid also prevents the eye from collapsing. After removing all hard contents of the lens's phacoemulsification, the softer parts can be removed with suction only. You might notice that some smaller opacities cannot be polished away. These are opacities in the lens capsule bag itself and are typical for cataracts in advanced stages of progression. In JJ, they were insignificant in size and the majority was not in the visual axis, interfering with vision. We have therefore opted not to remove the affected parts of the lens capsule bag for the benefits of being able to implant an artificial intraocular lens into a stable lens capsule. At this stage, the artificial intraocular lens is folded into an insertion device and is then injected through the corneal incision into the lens capsular bag. The artificial intraocular lens is made of silicon or acrylic. The optical power required for a dog is 41 diopter. In case an artificial intraocular lens cannot be implanted, the patient would still benefit from the procedure with improved vision, but would be very far-sighted. Once the artificial intraocular lens is implanted, the corneal wounds need to be sutured to achieve a watertight closure of the eye. For the smaller incision, a single suture is sufficient. For the larger corneal incision, multiple bites are required. We are using a continuous suture pattern to decrease the degree of astigmatism after cataract surgery. Astigmatism is an irregularity in the curvature of the cornea. It distorts the image that reaches the retina and thus causes blur. The degree of astigmatism after cataract surgery has been reported to be around 4 diopter. With the help of a keratometer, we would like to reduce surgical induced astigmatism and improve the visual outcome in our patients in future. This is JJ after he has recovered from the general anesthetic. You can see that his eyes are now no longer cloudy. After cataract surgery, the patients are immediately able to see again. Vision may still be a little bit blurry at first, but as the eye heals, it improves within a few days. Here you can see JJ exploring the consult room for the first time after cataract surgery. He no longer bumps into objects and finds his way around easily. You can also see that JJ has no problem finding his way through the hospital back into wards. And rather than going back into his kennel for a nap, you will see in a second, he decides it's time for some dinner and to find the kitchen. After one night in hospital, the patients can usually go home. Success rate of cataract surgery is approximately 90%. But very important for the good long-term outcome is the recovery period and the aftercare. JJ, like all other cataract patients, will need oral medication and frequent eye drops that are slowly tapered over a few months. His exercise will be restricted to short, relaxed walks for a couple of weeks. For now, it's time to say goodbye to JJ, but we will see him back soon and on a regular basis to assess his ocular health and to avoid complications. And reading the first update from JJ's family, it doesn't only seem to be rewarding for us ophthalmologists to give back sight to a patient.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Amy Billington. I'm Fundraising Manager at the Animal Care Trust. And thank you so much for coming along to our virtual donor day this evening. I'm really sorry we're not all face-to-face in a room together, but hopefully 2021 we'll be able to spend some time together. We thank our colleagues so much for all the time they've given this evening so that you can see behind the scenes across the RVC and see how your donations are really helping all sorts of teams and departments. Thank you also for all the questions we received. I think quite a few of those questions have probably been covered in this evening's presentations, but Nadja and I thought we would just go through a few of those now, as many as we can. Anything that we don't answer that you're particularly interested in, then please feel free to send us an email after this evening and we'll gladly come back to you. So, Nadja, one of the first questions we had was about our blood transfusion service. I think quite a few questions came in about this team, and probably a lot of those have been covered by Charlotte. But perhaps we could talk a little bit about our involvement with the blood transfusion service, our funding of them, and how people could get involved.
Okay, so we started fundraising for the blood donor service about 7 or 8 years ago. When the service really needed some new equipment, specifically a centrifuge and a fridge. So we started running a few appeals, and at that time we set up a fund so people could specifically support the blood donor service. So if there are people watching that do want to make a donation specifically to the service, we can manage that. The funds are held centrally, and then when the blood donor service need the funds, they contact us. There is a formal application service for them to fulfill, but that's just to ensure proper governance. But the funds can only be spent on the blood donor service. So things that we have helped them with, as I've mentioned, some of the equipment. We also recently funded the new patient care assistant, Grace. Of course, Grace has been instrumental during the pandemic when our blood donor owners haven't been able to go into the hospital with the donors when they've been giving blood. So having an extra pair of very caring hands has been really, really important. We also buy presents for our retiring blood donors. Recently, those have been dog and cat, and we try to share the pictures of them in their glorious retirement with our supporters. But the needs of the service vary year on year. Sometimes there are research needs. There was a little bit of research a couple of years ago into feline blood donation. And so we work with the service to see what their needs are, and then we let you know about them. Sometimes we do specific appeals when they need equipment. So if you would like to support the service, get in touch with us and we would be happy to help you with that.
Great. We had another question about our ophthalmology service, which we're currently fundraising for. So some of you may have received our Christmas appeal in the post. Do you want to talk a little bit about that service, Nadja?
Yes, certainly. This is another service we've supported for many, many years. It's a very expensive service to support because their equipment is very, very expensive. There's been a huge increase in the number of ophthalmology cases we've had in recent years because of the increase in popularity of the brachycephalic dogs, more specifically than the cats. So that's the flat-faced breeds. French bulldogs, etc., who just tend to have more issues with their eyes than other dogs. As Amy said, we've just launched an appeal for a new operating microscope, which will actually enable the team to carry out a whole load of new procedures that relate specifically to the retina, to improve outcomes from ophthalmology surgery. But it also creates really, really good images and video of procedures, which is important for teaching RVC students about ophthalmology. So hopefully, if you haven't already received the appeal, you'll be getting it soon. But if you have any questions about it or want more information, just get in touch with us.
Right. Our next question is about the new building work that's happening at our Hawkshead campus and the ACT's involvement in that. So if you can have a talk about that.
So the college is in the middle of a pretty major building project, which any of you that have been to the Hawkshead campus recently will have seen. The project is centred on improving the research facilities and educational facilities at the Hawkshead campus. There isn't any clinical element to this particular building, so the ACT isn't involved in this particular project. But it's interesting nonetheless, potentially for you to hear about what we're trying to do there. One area that the college has significant expertise is in One Health, which is recognising the links between human and animal medicine and our mutual environments. With the pandemic, this area of work has had a lot of attention, and more of our scientists are getting involved in the COVID situation specifically, but also other diseases that relate to humans and animals. So it's really important that we have absolute cutting edge facilities for our scientists. And a really exciting part of the project is a cell and vaccinology hub, which is specifically looking at viruses and how to create new vaccines for viruses. And we received £7 million from the Hertfordshire Local Enterprise Partnership towards that project. So we're probably about halfway through the project. Elements of the building will be opening earlier next year, and it's due to finish in the year after that. There have been some delays caused by the pandemic, of course. The builders have had to work in a very different way, and there was a halt in proceedings with the first lockdown. But we're happy with the progress and we look forward to getting our exciting new facilities.
Amazing. We had a next question about wild animals and whether what our involvement with wild animals is. Do we treat them? Do we see them? If we could talk a bit about that. Okay,
so yes, we get all sorts of wild animals that come to our hospitals. So both at Beaumont and in Camden and the QMH. The vets, when they graduate, take a vow to treat any animal that's brought to them. So that often happens. In relation to more exotic animals, our Beaumont Hospital has a specific exotic service. It's mainly centred on people's pets rather than wild animals. But we also have our very exciting partnerships with organisations like ZSL, London Zoo. So we have educational partnerships with them to deliver master's courses in wild animal health and wild animal biology. But we also occasionally get some of their residents coming to visit us. We've had an anteater, an enormous python, cheetahs, all sorts come through the hospital at different points. Very, very carefully, it might be added. And occasionally our equine team, for example, are called upon for their expertise up at Whipsnade when the veterinary teams up there need help with anaesthetics, because it's a very complex issue. So I think it's the more heads, the better. Yeah. Moving away from clinics, we also have a number of researchers focusing on wildlife, and two in particular come to mind that both appeared in recent David Attenborough. So we had Professor Alan Wilson flying over southern Africa following cheetahs on hunting migrating trails in his little plane which he built at the Hawkshead campus. And we also have Professor Cock, who's been looking at the Saiga antelope, who also featured on one of the David Attenborough programmes when the cameramen came across fields and fields of dead or dying antelope and not knowing what had happened. Professor Cock and various other researchers have been involved in trying to find the source of that awful tragedy, which related to a disease called Petit Peste Ruminant, which they're looking to eradicate worldwide as an issue with poorer communities and their herd health. But of course now it's passing to wildlife as well, and the Saiga antelope immunity to this particular condition. So there's all sorts of things going on at the RVC, and if you follow the RVC's main Facebook page, you'll see the breadth of what's going on. I've been here 9 years now, and I'm still learning what's going on there, and it's
still get surprises
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. One of our supporters are interested to hear about our equine students and our equine service. Have we got many students wanting to go into that field of veterinary science?
The quick answer to that is yes, lots of them want to be equine vets. All veterinary students graduate as general practitioners. So if students want to specialise, they go on and do further training. There are equine internships that students can do immediately after graduation, but as I understand it, they're as rare as hen's teeth. So what most students end up doing is going into mixed practices, which will have elements of equine care and elements of small animal care or farm animal care. And they often come back to the RVC to train in our equine hospital as interns to get that extra specialist education if they want to become equine vets. So the joy of the veterinary career is that they can go in multiple different directions, but it then makes it difficult to answer, where they might end up.
Yeah. One really good question from somebody was about taking nervous pets to the vets, which obviously during a pandemic has reached other levels. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
So this probably relates to the issue that at the moment in veterinary practices, other than in exceptional circumstances, you can't go into the practice with your pet, which of course is concerning for any owner. We have specific procedures in place at the RVC hospitals, which are probably the same as most local practices. If you have a nervous pet, the best thing you can do is to speak to the reception team before you come to see what they can do to help. But please remember that our vets, nurses, receptionists are absolutely used to nervous pets. And of course, particularly cats that don't enjoy being away from their home environment. There are all sorts of things you can do to calm them on their journey. You can put blankets over their carriers, keep things quiet and calm. Cats like classical music generally, so that can be good to play in the car. But unfortunately, yes, we completely understand you being concerned about not being able to be with your pet during the consultation. But please be assured that our team know what they're doing, and if they know in advance that you have a nervous pet, there are things they can do to make it better for them.
Great. And final question, really important question, is about our fundraising and how efficient we are with the generous gifts that we receive from all these lovely people.
Okay, so looking at the facts and figures, in our last set of accounts, our total income was 1.5 million, and our salaries for our permanent staff were around 11% of that. So we are very efficient. We're very, very tiny. We have 6 members of staff, only half of whom are full-time. And as a team, we not only fundraise, we manage the charity as well. So we organise all the grant applications, oversee the expenditure of funds, etc., etc. So we're a very tight, very efficient team. We're at the mercy of our legacy income, if you're looking at our ratios, because we can have an exceptional legacy year followed by a poor legacy year. Our income tends to fluctuate between around 800,000 up to 1.5 million, and that fluctuation will be entirely dependent on legacy income. Our day-to-day income with our fundraising appeals, etc., has been rising steadily each year, and it's even risen during the pandemic, which has really, really blown us away. It's been fantastic. So yes, we are rather at the mercy of legacy income, but the great thing about legacy income is that it enables us to make significant changes and support significant projects at the Royal Veterinary College. So when we were fundraising for the CT scanner, it was a legacy that enabled us to buy the top spec CT scanner, but also to redevelop the space and create a sedation room to go alongside the scanner. It's enabled us to fund scholarships, bursaries. A lot of legacies are restricted, so we look at what the restriction is and make that work within our environment. And so one of the things we've done this year as well is we got on board with a company called Fairwill, who are a fantastic online will writing company, and we can offer our supporters free will writing services online. So if that is something you're interested in, give us a call or drop us an email and we can give you a code, which means you can go online and do your wills for free. It is only simple wills. They will also do mirror wills. But if you want more information about it, just give us a call.
Great. And that's it. That's the end of our question session. We just want to say a huge thank you to everybody for not only for coming this evening, but for all your support this year. Please do stay in touch. You can stay in touch on social media, through our newsletters and appeals. Yeah, just keep in touch with us, and thank you so much for everything you do for the ACT. Is there anything you'd like to add, Nadja?
Well, just as you said at the beginning, I hope we can all see you again and we have a normal donor day in the near future. You know, at the current time, we're getting glimmers of hope with developments of vaccines, so we're keeping everything crossed. And well, the Christmas adverts have started, so I think we can say Merry Christmas, even though it's still only November. But, you know, sincerely, thank you for your support this year and for, you know, keeping us in your mind in these difficult times. And we hope you have a wonderful Christmas and New Year, and we really look forward to seeing you in person in the not too distant future.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.